Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. Customs Chief Nicanor Faildorn insists he won't resign amid the calls of lawmakers for him to leave his post. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
Lawmakers slammed Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faildorn for the Bureau of Customs' alleged failure to intercept billions worth of illegal drugs smuggled into the Philippines from China.
Maybe they see that I am not fit in this job. I know nothing about customs. I only know one thing, just to say no to you if you try to corrupt this bureau.
Faildorn says he respects the decision of the congressman but notes that President Duterte knows that he's doing his job.
This is not a job. This is specifically a mission for me to fix. I'm a soldier. I said yesterday I will not quit from a mission.
The commissioner also scores against government officials who are trying to influence the operations of BOC.
I don't want to name names. They want me to influence the promotion board so that their people here will be promoted. And I tell them right in their face, I will never dip a finger to influence our promotion board. That is a form of corruption.
But House Majority Floor Leader Rodolfo Fariñas hits back at Faildorn on the issue.
Kalokohan yan. Bakit? Hindi naman niya sinusunod yung recommendation ha. Paano magsisimulang korupsyon doon sa mga empleyado ng customs. Kung patakbuhin nila ng mausa yung customs, maski sino i-recommend yan, edi alisin nila.
Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Bureau of Customs admits committing mistakes in the operation that led to entrance of 6 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs from China. Icon Miguel will tell us why.
Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faildorn did not deny the lapses in processing of the seized illegal drugs at a warehouse in Valenzuela City last May 26. It can be recalled Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency National Capital Region Director Wilkins Villanueva claimed in a congressional probe that the said illegal drugs were scattered on the floor when PDEA operatives arrived at the warehouse. The illicit drugs were not marked before they were delivered to an authorized officer of PDEA. But Faildorn defends the decision of customs personnel to open the said contraband.
PDEA operatives were informed 9 a.m. They arrived there past 1 o'clock. That's more than 4 hours since we informed them. Okay? That's even longer than the time we received the information from China and the time we already operated it.
The customs chief also points out that if only PDEA operatives arrived at the scene early, the alleged procedural errors did not happen.
So if he arrived earlier, those procedural errors that we have committed could have been corrected earlier. All his pronouncements are accurate, but there are facts that he did not mention.
Meanwhile, Faildorn notes they acknowledge the authority of PDEA when it comes to the processing of seized illegal drugs, further adding that the recent error is just an isolated case of miscommunication. Commissioner Faildorn says one solution he sees in preventing another procedural error in the confiscation of illegal drugs is to join forces with PDEA in conducting operations up to the inventory of the contrabands. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Customs Chief Nicanor Faildorn denounces politicians he claims as using their influence to push their men in the Bureau of Customs. Jun Soriao tells us why.
Shame on you. No, this is not your property. This is the country's Bureau of Customs.
Before attending a House inquiry earlier this morning, Customs Chief Nick Faildorn expressed disgust over some individuals he says are trying to manipulate the Bureau of Customs or BOC. The beleaguered Customs Chief slams politicians allegedly trying to influence the Customs Board of Promotion in deciding who to assign in the said agency. He argues until the system of hiring personnel in the agency is addressed, one of the causes of corruption in the BOC will never be eradicated.
Pati yung assignment, ituturo pa sa'yo, dito mo yan lagay, ha? Who will allow that?
He also urges congressmen to create laws that will prohibit any government official from recommending individuals to be hired in the BOC.
Let's leave to the President the power to recommend. Kaya masama pa, kung di mo pagbigyan, magagalit pa sa'yo, personalin ka pa.
During his meeting with the President last night, Faildorn notes that he did not mention to the Chief Executive that there are politicians trying to influence him.
No, hindi naman ako nagsusumbong It's not my type.
Although he did not name the said politicians, Faldon has this to say to them.
I do not want to humiliate anybody. They're all workers in the government. But again, I'm appealing to you, stop it. As long as I'm here, I will continue to say no to you.
Jun Suriao, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte will decide on the fate of Bureau of Customs Chief Nicanor Faldon after the investigation on the Senate and the House on the 6.4 billion peso shipment of shabu from China. This was his statement during the 113th anniversary of the Bureau of Internal Revenue in Quezon City this afternoon. He also said he knows Faldon very well, but he will have to decide if there is corruption in the agency.
I said, if there is corruption, wala na tayong magawa. But if just a matter of computation, kaya dito, I would not. I know the guys. Sinabi ko mo, estudyante pa kami.
Okay.
Hindi nila. They are not up to it. Or otherwise, I would not have invited them to the cabinet.
In other news, a research group believes the Duterte administration's tax reform package would affect more than half of the country's population once it becomes a law. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The proposed tax reform package of the Duterte administration is likely to affect about 60 million Filipinos. This is what research group Ibon Foundation said on the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon. Based on the figures the group gathered from the Department of Finance, a poor individual earning more than 5,000 pesos monthly would lose 807 pesos annually, while those earning more than 19,000 pesos a month will lose 3,800 pesos every year. The reason, Ibon says, is because the cost of goods and services will go up when the proposed raising of taxes on sweetened beverages as well as on petroleum products pushes through. A group of businessmen previously warned that when taxes are raised for such products, companies will be left with no choice but to increase the prices of their goods or services. Critics say those who will carry the heavy burden are the poor.
Ang punto lang, bakit mo sisingilin yung mga walang-wala na ngayon at papagaanin pa yung buhay ng mga yayaman?
That's why for Sunny Africa, what the government needs to do now is to focus on improving its tax collection. Proof of this, he notes, is the government's failure to collect 10 billion pesos yearly from big companies. Alliance of Concerned Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino agrees with the analysis of the research group. Tino is in favor of imposing bigger taxes on vehicles but not on sweetened beverages. The lawmaker also emphasized the government should just properly implement the sin tax law so it could collect more taxes. Tino is also not convinced that the poor will benefit from infrastructure or education programs that the taxes will fund. He argues that the administration has even excluded the 8 billion pesos fund in the 2018 proposed national budget that is supposed to be allocated for the free tuition of students in public universities and colleges. The ball is now on the Senate after the tax reform bill passed the lower house of Congress.
So, kailangan magparamdam ang publiko, lalo na sa mga senador ngayon, na hindi katanggap-tanggap yung, lalo na yung pagpataw nga ng mga excise tax.
Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Stakeholders have voiced their fears anew regarding the possible layoff of workers in the automobile industry once a provision on increasing taxes for cars is approved. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
The automobile industry argues that the proposed increase in taxes on vehicles being pushed by the Duterte administration will result in the price increase of vehicles and the subsequent decrease in the demand of the same.
In the House Bill 5636 for the rates stated in 2018, a reduction of about 5%. For the rates stated in 2019, a reduction of about 10 to 12%.
If this happens, the scenario of mass layoff of workers is not far-fetched.
When you reduce by 5% at the minimum ang mga sasakyan na ipoproduce ng mga manufacturers natin, how many jobs will that mean?
The bill says taxes for new vehicles will double. The Department of Finance, on the other hand, says the bill has no intention to crash down the car industry.
It may decrease because the decision to buy cars is marginal per household. But because we are increasing take-home pay, we think that they might actually increase demand, especially in Manila area.
Senate Committee on Ways and Means Chairperson Sani Angara says there were only a few provisions left for them to change.
Siguro may konting paghihimay na lang at dun sa definition ng mga electric vehicles, dun sa pag-exclude, definitely exclude natin yung mga public utility vehicles, yung mga ginagamit pang pasahe.
The committee has only 5 more hearings left to finalize the controversial provisions on the administration's tax reform package. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Stiffer penalties await cartels as the implementation of the Philippine Competition Act goes in full swing this August 9. Rodrigo Mendoza will tell us why.
The happy days for cartels and colluding businesses will soon be over as the full implementation of the Philippine Competition Act takes effect this August 9. The 2-year transitory period lapses on Tuesday when businesses are allowed to correct anti-competitive practices such as price fixing. Under the new law, cartels await up to 7 years imprisonment and up to 250 million peso fine. The Philippine Competition Commission is already investigating the garlic cartel among others. This upon the request of Senator Cynthia Villar after its apparent resurgence was brought to light in a recent Senate inquiry.
Meron po tayong mga rules and procedures. Kailangan po natin daanan po yun. But then we will definitely have some action on this soon.
A separate investigation is being conducted on businesses possibly involved in a cement cartel. They are also looking into the acquisition of cigarette maker Mighty Corporation by a Japanese firm, JT International. Mergers or acquisition agreements where the transaction exceeds 1 billion pesos needs the Commission's approval.
Ni-notify na sa Commission yung kanilang transaction. So, yun naman ang nakasaad sa batas, no? Kailangan nilang i-notify kasi malaki yung amount na involved. And syempre, bago naming simulan yung review, kailangan kumpleto yung dokumento. Diba? Kasi hindi mo marireview kung hindi kumpleto yung dokumento.
The Commission also urges the public to report colluding businesses and industries which results to higher prices of goods and services. Rodrigo Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Next on Y News. President Rodrigo Duterte wants to strengthen defense foreign relations to fight terrorism in the region.
VACC files impeachment complaint against Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno.
PNP chief warns to relieve regional police officials if they fail to stop illegal gambling in 15 days.
Y News will be right back. President Rodrigo Duterte stands by the policemen who raided the Parahinogs of Osamis City. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte finally speaks out about the controversial raid of the residences of Osamis Mayor Reynaldo Paruhinog, which killed the local chief executive and 14 others. The president says he stands by the policemen and claims it was his order.
Yung sabi, preferably on raid night. But kung ang operation ng Shabu is not carried on during daytime because there is light, the police can go there anytime convenient for them to arrest. And I will stand by the police there. I will answer for it. I will say I ordered it. Bakit yun ang police who would be stupid enough to carry on a Shabu business? Daylight? Be crazy.
President Duterte added that he would prefer to see dead criminals than see his policemen dead, taking into consideration the cops' families. The chief executive maintained he is the one to be blamed for the actions of policemen and soldiers following his instructions to destroy the illegal drug operations in the country. Meanwhile, President Duterte also hits former President Noynoy Aquino, who said it seems nothing has happened under President Duterte's anti-illegal drugs campaign.
Kasi sabi niya walang nangyari sa campaign.
Opo.
Tingnan naman niya, in all of his 6 years, he was only able to seize or catch about 3,045 kilos of sabon. Ako, dito ngayon sa akin, it's 1 year, I have already seized about 2,000, nearing 3,000 sa entire 6 years niya.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte summoned several lawmakers to Malacanang yesterday and discussed measures to counter the threats of terrorism outside of Marawi City, as well as ways to strengthen the armed forces of the Philippines. Nel Maribuhok tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte's meeting with lawmakers yesterday centered on the threats of terrorist group ISIS in Southeast Asian nations. Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon, who was among the attending senators, says the president wants to strengthen the cooperation of the Philippines with other countries in the fight against terrorism.
He briefed us on the intelligence information on new threats posed by the ISIS in the south, and he is looking at a closer regional cooperation with neighboring countries, particularly Indonesia.
Senator Sani Angara says the president also mentioned the threat of terrorism in other parts of the country.
Well, he mentioned that there are reports that there could be other planned attacks dito sa Mindanao, other cities.
The lawmakers refused to disclose the provinces in Mindanao which might be the next target of terrorists. They say President Duterte also asked for their support to the government's plan to recruit an additional of 20,000 soldiers as part of efforts to improve the capability of the armed forces of the Philippines. Meanwhile, aside from tackling the administration's priority bills, the president also discussed with them the investigation into the 6.4 billion peso worth of shabu smuggled into the Philippines from China. Senator Drilon says the chief executive might use as basis the committee report of Congress on the matter on whether or not to oust Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faildon.
That is my impression, that the continued stay of Faildon will be influenced and will be determined on the basis of findings of both houses.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Members of the Committee of Permanent Representatives to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations convened today, days before the 50th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
Preparatory meetings were held today at the Philippine International Convention Center or PICC, led by Ambassador Elizabeth Buen Suceso, who is the permanent representative of the Philippines to the ASEAN. This is part of the preparatory meetings ahead of the 50th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting and related meetings that will begin this Saturday. Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano will chair most of the meetings, including the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights and the meeting of the Southeast Asia Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone Commission. Meanwhile, a photo exhibit is put up at the PICC to recognize 10 individuals who are considered ASEAN biodiversity heroes. 2 Filipinos made it on the list. One is Angel Alcala, who is a marine biologist and a professor at Silliman University, and Henry Munoz, the creator of Educacion.ph, a social enterprise that aims to help students in deciding for courses in higher education and even in future career. They will be formally recognized in a ceremony on August 7, where they will also receive $5,000 US, a medal, trophy, and a certificate. Tonight, a dinner will be held at the City of Dreams to welcome ASEAN senior officials and delegates who are now in the country to attend the meetings. Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa warns to sanction police officials if they fail to accomplish his order on illegal gambling. Monokson tells us why.
PNP Chief Director General Ronald De La Rosa has ordered all regional police directors to stop illegal gambling in their respective areas of jurisdiction within 15 days beginning Monday.
I told them we have to do it. Otherwise, I will start relieving my commanders after the deadline kung hindi lang ma-stop yung illegal gambling.
De La Rosa believes 15 days' time is enough to stop illegal gambling in the country. Based on PNP data, Luzon region has the most number of illegal gambling operations. Since February this year to date, PNP was able to conduct almost 6,000 anti-illegal gambling operations. More than 13,000 personalities arrested and confiscated gambling-related items worth more than 5 million pesos. De La Rosa also confirms that there are local government units involved in illegal gambling.
Bahala na. Basta importante, ma-address natin yung illegal gambling. Kung matamaan yung LGU, matamaan yung mga politicians na may interest dyan sa illegal gambling na yan, sorry na lang. Sorry, we have to do this.
Aside from illegal gambling, the PNP is also intensifying its campaign against illegal logging in the country. Monhok Son, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Meanwhile, the Department of Justice, or DOJ, denied the appeal of former cop Gerardo Santiago to be absolved from the kidnapping and killing of Korean businessman Ji Ik-ju. DOJ dismissed the petition for review of Santiago and ruled in favor of the previous resolution, which implicated him as one of the accessories in the kidnapping of the businessman. DOJ said the time of filing was not proper for Santiago's appeal, and it also lacked requirements. Santiago was the owner of the funeral parlor in Caloocan City, where the remains of the victim was brought before it was cremated in a crematorium in La Loma. Meanwhile, the trial at the Angeles City Regional Trial Court on the case is set to begin in September. The VACC, or Volunteer Against Crime and Corruption, files an impeachment complaint against Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno before the House of Representatives. Maki Libradilla tells us why.
Culpable violation of the Constitution and betrayal of public trust are the grounds cited by the Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption, or VACC, and the Vanguard of the Philippine Constitution, or VPC. In the impeachment complaint they filed against Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. The group say the complaint stemmed from the judiciary's creation of the centralized office and reopening of Regional Court Administrative Office in the Visayas without approval of the Supreme Court and Bank. They also cited as basis for violation Sereno's appointment of Attorney Solomon Lumba as her staff head, although he has other positions in the government, as well as her delegation of Attorney J. Mendoza as the chief of the Philippine Mediation Office without the approval of the court and bank. The BACC and BPC also accused Sereno of using the funds of the Supreme Court for the travel allowance of her staff. And lastly, they pointed at what they claim as Sereno's failure to fill in 4 positions needed in the Supreme Court within more than 4 years. No lawmakers has endorsed yet the impeachment rapts, and thus rendering it as an unverified impeachment complaint.
Huwag nyo naman ako i-pressure. Sino ba endorse? Bakit? Hindi ba to? Is this not enough for us not to take courage against the Chief Justice? Kami po sa VACC. Matagal namin sinisigaw sa inyo. Rotten, mabagal, at kurap ang ating judicial system. Now, what else do you want us to do?
Maki Libradilla, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
In other news, the Philippine Health Insurance Company, or PhilHealth, seeks to increase its premium contributions next year. Nel Maribohok tells us why.
Senators have begun discussion today on the Universal Healthcare Bill, one of the priority bills of the Duterte administration. The legislation primarily aims to expand the coverage of the benefits offered by the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PhilHealth. The bill also covers the increasing of budget for the benefit package of PhilHealth, which aims to lessen the hospital bills of indigent patients. It also covers the repair of facilities of public hospitals across the country. To accomplish these goals, Senate Committee on Health and Demography Chairperson Joseph Victor Ejercito confirms that PhilHealth is seeking to increase the premium contributions of middle-income earners.
Yung increase ng premium proposed by PhilHealth from 2,400 to 3,600 by 2018 or 2019, no? Para for them to be able to improve their facilities.
Meanwhile, Senator Ejercito adds that the Department of Health needs a huge amount of fund for the repair of public hospitals across the country, which also transpired during the committee hearing.
Ang sinabi ng DOH, what they need in the next 5 years is 228 billion to improve all the hospital facilities, health facilities, no?
Ejercito said improving the facilities of public hospitals will also help reduce overcrowding of patients. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, orders closure of several provincial bus terminals in Pasay City. Maki Libradilla will tell us why.
MMDA has ordered the closure of bus terminals in Pasay City that do not have the necessary business permits. Among those marked with closure posters were Bragais Bus Company, Pamar Bus, St. Jude Bus, and St. Rafael Bus Company.
Yung iba, nabigyan ng permit para gamitin na garahe. Pero habang tumatagal yung garahe, nagiging terminal na. Hindi tama. Hindi yun ang business permit na binigay.
MMDA Chair Danilo Lim also castigated the management of Don Aldrin Bus for continuously operating despite being out of line and after repeated warnings from MMDA.
Kung yan ang lengguwahe na naiintindihan nila, so impound na lahat yan.
Usapan lalaki pa, tatapang pa ng mga operator ninyo nagsabing, sige. Hindi naman kayo sumusunod eh.
As sanctioned, all bus units of Don Aldrin Bus Company will be held at the MMDA impounding area in Tumana, Marikina for 3 months.
Siguro po, yung pong sabi nila, yan kung gagawin natin, di ba? Wala mo tayong magagawa.
Apart from not having the necessary permit, the bus companies also violated the nose-in, nose-out policy of the agency. Maki Libradilla, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The House Committee on Transportation wants to create regulations and rules that would fix the operation of transport network companies, Uber, Grab, and U-Hop in the Philippines. Joan Nano will tell us why.
One of the plans of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, and lawmakers is to limit the number of Transport Network Vehicle Services, or TNVS, plying streets to prevent the heavier flow of traffic on roads. Committee Chairman Congressman Cesar Sarmiento notes it seems the original objective of Transport Network Companies, or TNCs, which is to offer ride-sharing vehicles, is not being followed, and instead it's becoming a form of business for many.
The original ride-sharing concept may have been set aside in favor of profit-making. We have TNVS operators buying new cars to be enrolled under either Uber or Grab and employing drivers to operate their extra vehicles.
During the inquiry, Grab admitted that the number of its accredited TNVS has already reached 52,000, while Uber has 66,000 accredited TNVS and U-Hop has 1,000. LTFRB Chairman Martin Delgra was surprised of said number of TNVS, saying it already exceeds passenger demand. Based on the information submitted by Uber and Grab to the LTFRB, hourly passenger demand for TNVS is only at 12,000 to 15,000.
As you have said, Your Honor, 125,000 units on all 3 TNVS, but only to serve 12,000 to 15,000 demands per hour. You could just imagine a funnel where you have so many unregulated, so we're just trying to bridge the gap.
Late 3rd District Congressman Vicente Veloso meanwhile denounced Uber and Grab, saying they have violated the law for allowing many of its TNVS to operate even without franchise.
Uber, Grab, you are committing criminal offenses. Every time nag-ooperate kayo na wala kayong prangkisa. But worse is, walang insurance ang pasahero.
Based on the LTFRB's figures, the agency apprehended up to 35 colorum Uber and Grab cars during their anti-colorum operations. In September, the LTFRB is expected to issue a memorandum order that is expected to resolve the issue Uber and Grab face, as well as the thousands of TNVS operating without franchise. Joan Ano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Laguna Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office continuously monitors all landslide and flood-prone areas in the province. Meanwhile, some parts of Rizal Province are now submerged in flood water. A major road in Santa Barbara, Villas 1, Barangay Silangan, San Mateo, Rizal, has eroded and is now closed to residents and motorists. Classes in some areas in Rizal were also suspended. Road closures caused price of vegetables to drop in Benguet Province. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Prices of vegetables from Benguet plantations dropped by 10 pesos following the days of monsoon rains intensified by cyclones Gorio and Juaning. The League of Associations La Trinidad Vegetable Trading explains closure of major roads leading to La Trinidad Trading Post delayed their transport of crops.
The only problem talaga that was caused by yung magkasunod na typhoon na yon ay yung mga road closures. So sa main highway, yung Halsema Highway, ang maraming major landslides.
Balanoy adds that when the national road finally opens, deliveries all arrived at the same, causing oversupply of vegetables.
What's good is may nakaantabay na mga loader, mga heavy equipment that na ready na mag-open dun sa kalsada. Although ang napansin namin as per report ng mga members namin, iilan lang yung mga loaders.
For this reason, the price of per kilogram of carrots has dropped to 20 to 23 pesos per kilogram from 45 pesos. Cabbage, wombok, and pechay now cost 10 to 16 pesos per kilogram from the old price of 20 pesos. A kilogram of potato now costs 30 to 45 pesos as compared with the old price of 55 pesos. Meanwhile, 4 roads leading to Cordillera region remain closed as of today. These are Baay and Manikbel Bridge along Abra Cervantes Road, Kiangan Tinok Bagiwas Boundary Road in Ifugao, Tabuk Buntok Banawi Road in Kalinga, and the Junction Talubin Road in Mountain Province. Meanwhile, only one lane is passable in Tawang Ambyong Road, Baguio City Limit, Santo Tomas Road, Banawe Hungduan Benguet Boundary Road, and Baguio Bontoc Road na Matex section. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Coming up, Malaysia seizes nearly $1 million worth of trafficked wildlife at Kuala Lumpur International Airport.
Senior citizens wow Wishcovery audition crowd in Cebu City.
Anti-pay commuters take a dive into a sports-themed subway cars.
More from Y News after this break.
Y News would like to thank the following: Inex Industrial Incorporated, Medical Depot, Satex Communication Center, E5 Enterprise, East Trans Line Philippines Incorporated, JPM Medical.
The United States has begun removing furniture and equipment from a diplomatic property in Moscow on Tuesday. Ronald de Guzman will tell us why.
At a diplomatic property in the Serebrayani Bor area in the outskirts of Moscow, a crowd of journalists surround the closed compound in response to Russia's order to remove U.S. diplomatic staff from the country. At around 11 a.m. local time, a white minibus with a diplomatic license plate left the property. The persons left without accepting any interviews. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said that U.S. diplomats are required to leave the U.S.-owned Vilya Dacha by noon on Tuesday, and delayed removal will cause new problems, according to Russian media. On Friday, the Russian Foreign Ministry said Moscow would suspend the use of the summer house in Serebrayany Bor and some warehouses in southern Moscow by the U.S. Embassy staff from August 1. Ronald De Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue, Moscow, Russia.
Meanwhile, Malaysian customs officials discovered 23 ivory tusks weighing about 76 kilograms at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport cargo warehouse on Sunday afternoon. The tusks, valued at more than $64,000 US, had been shipped on an Etihad Airways flight from Lagos via Abu Dhabi. Later that day, 6 sacks containing 300 kilograms of pangolin scales worth over $900,000 US were found in the same cargo warehouse. The scales were shipped from the Democratic Republic of Congo on Ethiopian Airways. Both shipments were sent to fake addresses and their recipients could not be traced according to Malaysia's customs.
Tapi saya percayalah mereka mengeksploitasi sistem dan prosedur yang ada di sini untuk melakukan kegiatan penyumpahan ini. Dengan sebab itu saya kata kita akan membuat engagement dengan semua pihak yang ada kepentingan di kalangan ini untuk memastikan dia punya assembly line tu mula-mula sampai sehingga keluar tu kita dapat memperkukuhkan supaya negara kita ini tidak dijadikan tempat untuk melakukan kegiatan penyumpahan dagangan di bawah CITES ini.
The shipments were the latest in a series of seizures in Asia of products made from endangered animals. And in other news, 21 European Union states compete to host London-based agencies after Brexit. Jovit Burmas tells us why.
The European Union has received 27 proposals from EU members to host the 2 agencies that will have to be relocated when Britain completes its exit from the bloc, the European Council said on Tuesday. All but 6 European Union states are bidding to host one or both the London-based EU agencies. 19 cities have made themselves candidates to host the European Medicines Agency, while 8 are offering to give the European Banking Authority a home, the Council of the European Union said. Only Hungary, Slovenia, Cyprus, and the 3 Baltic states of Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia decided not to join the fray.
The European Commission will start its assessment of member states' applications to host the European Medicines Agency and the European Banking Authority, because last night at midnight, the deadline expired for official applications to be sent to us to host the European Medicines Agency and the European Banking Authority. We will now proceed in assessing all offers in an objective manner, and we will publish our assessment on the 30th of September.
The European Commission will assess the candidates by September, but the decision rests with EU leaders who will try to reach a consensus deal at their next summit in October. A final decision is expected a month later. Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Senior citizens wow Discovery audition crowd in Cebu City. Leslie Lomboan will tell us why.
Lolos in Cebu proved that talent doesn't fade with age when they took the Discovery audition stage in Cebu City. Crowd cheered as 62-year-old Keloy Pardillo started singing his piece. Lolo Keloy has won several singing competitions in his youth. He says his voice remains good as before because he takes care of his body.
Hindi naman base sa edad. Kapag ang tao walang bisyo, hindi umiinom ng alak, walang sigarilyo, siyempre yung boses, permanente yun. Kahit mataas yung edad mo.
67-year-old Crispin Aguilar also showcased his singing prowess.
Back when I was a child, before life removed all innocence.
The former singer and band vocalist says he puts emotion in every performance. He also believes that age doesn't matter in pursuing a person's dreams.
Katulad na edad, 67, alagaan mo yung sarili mo kasi marami ka pang maaabot sa buhay mo.
Lolo Kelly and Crispin are just two of the more than 200 auditionees in Cebu who want to be wish covered. The last on-ground audition will be tomorrow in SM Baguio.
If I could get another chance, another walk.
Leslie Lombowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Cebu City.
Those are the reasons behind the news, August 2, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Why News.